Hello again. Hopefully, this will be a quick one. We're going to talk briefly about bios. Bios can be pretty simple. What you really want to do is it can be as short as a paragraph. In that first paragraph, or that first sentence, you want to give us a one or two sentence description of your work. The first thing that the first artist we're gonna look at is Grace Lee Lawrence, and I'll just read it for you if you can't see it on the screen. Grace Lee's work deals with relationships between food, the body, and technology. It is born in the transfigurative space between physical and digital reality, exploring ways in which bodies are both gendered, metaphorically figmented in terms of capitalist driven material desires, physical sustenance, and the digital spaces we inhabit. And I'll continue to read the rest just so you have an idea. Grace Lee has attended 20 residencies in the US and abroad and opened her first solo show in New York at the Thierry Goldenberg in May 2019. She is currently a visiting assistant professor of sculpture at the University of Albany SUNY. Recent exhibitions include blah, 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 blah. This is a really fantastic example. The last thing I want to say, the very last line in the bio is she's an enthusiastic dancer, a lifelong horsewoman, and an aspiring indoor gardener. I like Grace Lee's bio quite a bit because it gets to the point. There's a really nice sort of elevator speech about what her work is about. She gives you a background of sort of a highlight of her accomplishments, what she's doing currently. I'm surprised that she doesn't have her education in there. And then there's a nice sort of like little personalizing line there at the end. Horsewoman, dancer, gardener. I find it rather charming. The other artist, this is a longer bio. This is Moses Salazar. This has a longer background, which I think is nice to have if you think that it is important to the work. But what I want to focus on is sort of here at the bottom. Moses Salazar is a non-binary queer artist from Chicago. They currently attend the School of the Art Institute Chicago undergraduate program, where they primarily focus on ceramic sculpture and painting. Born queer into immigrant parents has cemented a conflict within Moses Salazar's political identity, which is the conceptual focus of their practice. The work of Moses Salazar is meant to showcase the trauma, history, and current state that undocumented immigrants and queer folks face. It is by examining the intersection of race, ethnicity, nationality, gender, queerness, and the United States history that Moses Salazar addresses the realities of the barriers that immigrants and queer individuals face, with the intention to begin to dismantle the myths and stereotypes used to criminalize and dehumanize them. I like this bio. I love Moses Salazar's work. We'll skip over to that just quickly so you can sort of see because it's so lovely. Again, working between like painting and sculpture and sort of installation. The other thing I want to point out is that bios are always written in the third person. So you never want to refer to yourself as me or I. You want to use your name and again, just sort of in that third person. Just a little thing that I'll say is your bio is going to start. It'll probably be like, I'm so and so, studio, or whatever your name is, studio art major, Hamline University, background, a couple sentences about what your work is about, and then if you have any sort of relevant experience. And you're going to really tweak and change your bio depending on what you're applying to. Some might need to be a little more formal, some may be a little more informal. Striking that balance where you're sort of humanizing yourself and also giving us a very quick taste of what your practice is about. The conceptual underpinnings of the work, and probably a touch on if you're a painter, printmaker, sculptor, or if you sort of don't care about those labels at all and you're sort of working between things. The other thing that I'll say when we're thinking about professional practices is every time I write a new bio or I write a new statement, I throw it in a document. So every time I have to tweak that bio, if it's sort of for a grant or for a conference, I have that running tally. So the hard part that you're doing now is that you have to do it all for the very first time. And it's hard when you're starting from scratch. But once you've been doing it for a while, it's easy because you're just like, oh, I already have that bio. I'll go in, I'll tweak a couple things, I'll add a couple of things that have happened, and then just save that bio. Save it in a Google document, save it in a Word document, put it somewhere thinking you could return back to it. So ideally, after you've been doing this for a while, you never have to write anything from scratch. You can just sort of modify what you've already done and sort of build on it from there. Bios are pretty easy. Some of them, some places might ask for something a little bit longer. Again, when you were thinking about Moses Salazar's work and they give a longer background to how they're addressing queer and immigrant bodies, and they're getting a little bit into their use of sort of like paper mache and glitter and why these things are important. That about part on their website tips into probably more like an artist statement. They don't have it delineated which is which, but that first chunk feels to me more like a statement, and the bottom chunk that I read to you in totality is more like a bio. Sometimes they get a little messy if your work is really sort of identity based, but bios are hard the first time. They get much easier. Look at other artists that you like, see what you like about their bios and what you don't like, and then just always keep a running document of your own work so that you never have to write it twice. You can just tweak it and make changes sort of as you progress in your studio practice.